the curriculum-based support groups that we're doing at the Boys and Girls Club here in Norman. And the Boys and Girls Club is an after-school program that is designed to provide resources, connections for families, and opportunities to improve social skills, self-esteem, and child development in youth. And the curriculum I'm going to be talking about is created by Rainbow Days, and the creator is Kathy Brown. So the goal of this curriculum-based groups were to reduce and prevent substance use in Cleveland County, increase resiliency, build healthy coping skills, and educate. We also wanted to provide a safe and supportive environment. And this was an evidence-based program that showed the outcomes that we wanted and was effective in getting our goal. So these are the steps that we did to get started for this program. First, we had to identify the issue, which was to reduce substance use. Next, we had to identify an evidence-based program. We didn't have to do a lot of research. Thankfully, our director, Charlene, had used this program before and was, I believe, started in Texas. So there was a whole statewide evaluation that showed the outcomes that was effective, and we used this program. And then next we had to recruit the students. So during our interview process, they asked us if we were comfortable doing groups, what we thought about prevention and these types of groups. And then we also had to find a setting. Finding a setting was very important. They had communication, I believe, since spring, all the way in the summer and in the fall as well, to make sure that everything, the steps were needed, we're taking the steps to find a setting for this program. Thankfully, the Boys and Girls Club allowed us into their program and made space for us to be there. And then next we had to train. We had the training done by Rainbow Days. We had online training for about 3 days. We also had additional training where we practiced doing these groups with each other. Then we also had like module trainings about brain development, and as well as our education that kind of helped us have a well-rounded training facilitations. And then next we had to implement this program. So I think this was very important to make sure that we did it right so that we got the outcomes that we wanted and was effective as well. There were a couple of fidelity tools that I personally used. As a student, I was very anxious about making sure that I did the steps correctly. So these tools actually helped me a lot to make sure that the structure of the group was right and that I was implementing it correctly. And then next we had to evaluate. There are post and pre-test questionnaires about the attitude of drugs, what they thought about it, and just what their overall knowledge was about drugs. And so there are 4 adaptions for this curriculum. In our fall semester, we used the Kids Connection, which is the orange book. That book is meant for school and community-based settings. It has about 10 sessions and additional 2 sessions as well. The Youth Connection is also used in school and community-based for kids who are ages 10 to 17. And then there's a Kids Connection, which is a purple book. The Kids Connection 2 is meant for shelters, group homes, or transitional living. We actually are using this group this spring semester just because it gives us a little bit of flexibility. Not all the kids go to the Boys and Girls Club every day. Sometimes they leave early, or sometimes weather happens that they have to cancel. So this book has been very helpful for us. And then the green book, the Faith Connection, is for faith-based settings. And so this is a program's mission. I thought it was very helpful that our mission, the Boys and Girls Club mission, and the curriculum missions had something that we were all aligned in, and that is to help children and youth in adversity build coping skills and resilience to create positive futures. So here at the bottom of this text, it says, it helps children to increase resiliency who have experienced childhood adversity, trauma, or toxic stress. I think that's very important because sometimes toxic stress, adverse childhood experience can affect our mental health, and our mental health is very important and a correlation to substance use as well. So making sure that we help them build healthy social emotional skills and coping skills in a caring, supportive environment was very important as well. And so these are just some of the topics that we discussed. We got to know each other. We talked about celebrating each other. We talked about feelings. We also talked about handling anger, ways to handle anger in effective ways. We talked about dreams and goal settings, making healthy choices, what friends are, and resisting negative peer pressure. Putting it all together was just kind of a little quiz for them to kind of see what they learned, and then a celebration and commitment, just a celebration that they did this group and a commitment to healthy life choices as well. And then those two additional sessions are about chemical dependency and then changes and challenges in my life. We didn't have enough time to discuss those two sessions last fall semester, but they're really great topics as well. So the group format was pretty simple. We met weekly every Wednesday. The groups were about an hour from 4:30 to 5:30. We got there a little bit early, 30 minutes early, just to greet the kids, get the room together, make sure there's no distractions. And then once we started the group, there was always a check-in, and that was a sunshine and a cloud. The sunshine and cloud were just a way to discuss their highlight of the week and day, or just discuss any issues or problems that they encountered in the week or day. And it just helped us see where they were at as well. And then topic for discussion, we chose a topic to discuss. And with that topic, we had activity. We either did role playing, um, coloring activities, or just arts and crafts, whatever the kids wanted. We kind of implemented that with those activities. And then we had a closing ritual that we had to do at the end of every group, that sort of ended the group in a way that the kids kind of knew that they were capable of doing things in the future, that they were in control of their lives, and that they had a sense of purpose as well. And so in the next slide, the closing ritual is I am, I can, I have, I will, and I believe. So I'll show you guys how this goes. So you put your thumbs up. So it's I am, I can, I have, I will, and I believe. So these kind of this closing ritual kind of help the kids kind of come together as a community and just do it together and have a sense that they are capable of many things. And I think this group is prevention, because it allows students to learn about drugs and the consequences of drugs, but we didn't use scare tactics because we know it doesn't work. So in a way, we incorporated their self-awareness, social awareness, their competence, and then building relationship skills and having a sense of purpose in them. And then also teaching them about responsible decision making. I think those incorporating those topics and activities and discussions with these students, hopefully they will go when they have encountered situations or problems or have strong emotions. They will be able to use some of those skills in the future to create some positive choices for themselves that would keep them healthy and also help the community as well. So I'm really happy that we did these groups at the Boys and Girls Club and that they allowed us. And hopefully these groups can be implemented in schools and many more agencies, because they can really make a difference. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Madison Beeson. I am also a BSW senior, a part of the Southwest Prevention Center for my practicum. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about peer support system. Peer support system is personally my favorite part of our practicum. We have a lot of different experiences, but this one's definitely my favorite. It's a brand new group on campus that just started last fall, and we had the ability and the opportunity to kind of start those up. It's a really cool component of the prevention work that we do, because we can really see firsthand the effects of the work within the students on campus as we're doing them. So prevention in terms of mental health is something that I believe all of us students at the Southwest Prevention Center are really passionate about. So I think I speak for all of us when I say it's been incredibly honorable for all of us to be able to facilitate these groups on campus and start something that we hope to be, you know, a really important component of all the mental health support that's available for students on campus. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different purposes of our group. So promotion of student mental health and well-being is definitely the biggest component of what group is. It's also promoting accessibility to support from peers in an inclusive and welcoming environment. So I think this group is really unique compared to other organizations on campus, even other mental health resources at OU, just because everyone that comes is there for the common purpose, which is just to listen to each other and really just support one another. It's free of judgment, so I feel like it contributes to making the group a very positive environment, even when some heavy or difficult topics are being discussed. It's safe and confidential, so before group even starts, at our first meeting, we discuss the importance of keeping what's discussed in group within group, and every member is able to sign a confidentiality agreement. And so we also discuss the limitations to confidentiality as they sign that, which is stuff we're all familiar with, like someone disclosing potential harm to themselves or others. Intentional discussion. Everyone has the opportunity to share what's going on in their lives, say anything that's on their mind. Just giving equal opportunity to everyone to have that space is something that we really want to emphasize in our groups. Sometimes we'll even bring pre-chosen topics to group, and sometimes activities as well that we'll discuss and share resources and educational components that we've learned surrounding the topics to the group. It's an environment for mutual support, but it's definitely not therapy or professional assessment. So when each student signs up for group, they're able to read a disclaimer that notes that we as practicum students are students and not mental health professionals. So we can't assess, we can't diagnose, and that's not the purpose of the group. And that group is not group therapy. But it is something that is a really good to supplement that kind of stuff. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about how group started and how we were able to establish this on campus. So the first thing we did was identify key partnerships. So we ended up partnering with an organization on campus called Our Mental Health. It's an organization that shares a lot of our values. They bring in speakers to discuss different mental health topics, share resources with the group. It's a really supportive and safe space. So partnering with them was really key for this. They gave us a platform to speak at their meetings about our group. Their exec team has been a huge resource to us. A lot of them are members of our peer support group, and they just give us a lot of support. We attended facilitator trainings and mental health educational seminars. So we had the opportunity to participate in a training called Talk Saves Lives, which is a suicide prevention training, which is really important, when you're in a peer support group. And if things like that ever come up, just knowing what to do and what to say and how to best handle that situation. Peer recovery support specialist training, which was put on by the state, and it was an incredible training that really prepared us for facilitation, gave us a lot of tips and tricks that were really useful, along with a lot of other educational resources that our field instructor was able to provide us. We set the group purposes and expectations, so kind of like what I outlined previously in the last slide, just deciding what are our common values we're going to focus on, what are the purposes, and what are we going to expect from group members. And also planning on, we're going to also allow the group members to decide some of those for ourselves and the group as a whole, especially expectations. So how we were going to go about that in our first meeting. That also included the confidentiality agreement as well, and going over what that would look like. And finally, just reaching out to potential participants. So speaking at organization meetings like Our Mental Health. And I think the biggest thing we did was a notification through OU's mass email system, which just reached the broader student body and was able to bring in a wide variety of different students. So the group structure, so groups meet bi-weekly, so every other week, and last an hour. Our groups last semester and this semester have met on campus every other Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30. Each member has the opportunity during group to share any challenges or struggles they're facing within work, school, personal lives. Nothing is off limits. At sub meetings, like I said before, we'll bring different topics and activities to openly discuss and participate in. These topics can be self-care, school life balance, current events, or just general wellness. But a lot of times we just end up having a pretty open floor with people taking turns discussing things that's going on, and we all just leaning in on one another and supporting one another through whatever we're going through. Something I think is really awesome about these groups, as facilitators, we're able to participate along with our peers. So of course we have the responsibilities of mediation, facilitating and redirecting conversation or diffusing conflict. But we're always open to be able to talk about anything that we're going through or anything on our mind. So I think that's really awesome. So the outcomes, things that we've recognized that have come out of group, just generally, it's a new and unique mental health and wellness resource for students to access on campus. I think it's awesome because it's different than really anything OU's had before. To my knowledge, I wish something like this was around when I was a freshman, but I'm super glad that it's here now. We've noticed just the formation of genuine connections and friendships between group members. Awareness of different resources on campus and the community as everyone's just able to share some of those, and really just seeing prevention in practice. So this really means, in terms of the groups, preventing mental health crises or complications before they start, as people have the opportunity to talk about their feelings, practice mindfulness, and just being surrounded by a supportive community. So planning for the future of these groups. So we will start groups again next fall. Obviously not we as facilitators, as we are all graduating, but we are in the process of preparing for them and looking to train new facilitators for these groups. So if you're interested, we would absolutely love to have any of you apply who are going to be undergraduates next year and looking for kind of a leadership role or just experience, in facilitating groups. We're accepting applications until April 8th. And at some point we're going to drop the link in the chat. And like I said, even though we're all graduating, all of us are really looking forward to these groups continuing on campus in the future. And you can definitely get with Jennifer, and she'll be able, if you're wanting to just become a member of the group, even if you're not interested in being a facilitator. I know next year as a graduate student, I'm hoping I'll be able to join a group. So yeah, that's it for my section with the peer groups. I'm going to pass it along to Jack, who's going to talk about Transition House. Thank y'all.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jack. I am also a senior social work student, and I'm doing my practicum with the Southwest Prevention Center. I'll be talking to you a little bit about Transition House, what the agency is and how they promote prevention, and like really why we are partnering with them as prevention students. If you're not familiar with what Transition House is, it's an agency committed to acting as like quite a literal transition house for adults with serious mental illness or co-occurring disorders, trying to reintegrate back into society, going from inpatient living more into community-based living, and really like gaining a job and getting back into society more often. But before I get started on that, I want to talk about the mission, the value, and the culture. As students, when we first came into Transition House, they wanted to talk to us about these three things, because without these three things, we can't really go anywhere. If you're not on the same page with our mission, our vision, and our culture, then it's really hard to accomplish the goals that we want to achieve as an agency. The mission of the agency is to change lives by creating pathways for mental wellness. The vision is a community committed to connection, recovery, wellness, and joy. And the culture is that we listen, we respect, we support, and we empower. And without all three of these aspects and all four of those very, very important parts of our culture, we have to be very connected. If there is any kind of disconnect, not only does it affect the agency and the workplace, but also the lives of the clients that are in our program. Going on to the next slide, I'll talk about our transitional living program a little bit more. So this is where we have 4 apartments, 3 beds each. So that's 12, or 3 beds per apartment. And that's 12 total. So this program is a supervised apartment living, which empowers developing life skills, including pre-vocational, vocational skills, community living skills, and socialization or recreational skills, while also providing support. One of our roles as students in this transitional living program is attending weekly or daily community groups. Each of us usually go there about once a week. So Kenny and I have been going every Wednesday this whole school year, well, for this semester. And this semester, we've started to lead more socialization and recreational groups, which is just making sure that we're making sure to have fun while we're talking about prevention and talking about recovery, because in recovery, one of those major aspects is fun. If we're not having fun, then it's kind of hard to grow, like, as a whole, really. And if we can do that as a community, having fun together is easily the best way to do that, in our opinion, as an agency. The main goal for the transitional living program is to assist and support adults with serious mental illness or co-occurring disorders as they do transition from inpatient living to community living, as I said earlier. And on to the next slide, we'll talk about the community outreach program. So this is a little bit more complicated because it involves both our current clients in the TLP program, but also our past and former clients, and also just adults from within the community that might not be able to enter our program, but we still want to impact and support as many people as possible. So what the community outreach program does is it provides supportive services to former clients, and as I just said, other adults within the community, and help them advance their recovery and navigate their recovery journey in community living. It's not very easy going back out into the community after being in more of a transitional living program like we have, where you're around the same 10 to 12 people every day. And then you're back into the real world, or what you want to call the real world. It's a pretty difficult transition. And what we do with the community outreach program is make sure that transition is as easy as possible, and make sure that our clients have the opportunities for ongoing crisis intervention, support, socialization, recreational activities. One of my favorite things that I've done with the outreach program is I went to our Christmas party, or our holiday party, in December. And all of our past clients had come in, our board members came in. It was so much fun. Just seeing everybody interact with each other, past, former, possible future clients were there too. It really was just a great way for everybody to have fun and get to know each other, but also continue that conversation about recovery and prevention in practice as well. So going on to the next slide, I'll talk about our drop-in center. So built in 1995, the drop-in center is meant to act as a safe space for clients and other adults from the community to come and hang out, celebrate their journeys, talk about their stories, connect with each other, have fun, and really create that community feeling that you want to have within an agency, especially with the work that we're doing. The drop-in center also hosts all of the groups and most of the activities that Transition House puts on with the clients. Like I said, they meet daily from about 9:30 to 11 a.m. for our community groups. And then after that, they'll usually do a curriculum group, either in the afternoon or right afterwards, after giving the clients a little bit of a break. But yeah, so that's a little bit about our drop-in center. And talking more about prevention at Transition House. So this is the perfect example to talk about how prevention can happen at different points in life. before and after that first exposure to use. So what we're doing with the Boys and Girls Club is preventing future use within children. But now at Transition House, we're talking about prevention of a possible lapse or a possible trigger within the community that really might not interact well with everybody. So by doing this, we're promoting skills learned through those groups, activities, and discussions. And this is acting as prevention for by promoting wellness and personal growth within the clients. And I'm pretty sure that is all that I have for Transition House. So I'll pass it on to Mackie to talk about Red Cup. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I'm in a conference room at the office, so I just wanted to make sure. So I am a graduate student in the Master's of Social Work program. And as part of my practicum, I kind of manage and write columns for a media campaign we have called the Red Cup Q&A. That's for OU students here on campus. The campaign answers real world questions from real students on college campus about alcohol specifically. Sorry, next slide, Jennifer. Thank you. So what's the mission of the Red Cup? The mission is to educate OU students about alcohol so they can make safe and informed decisions about whether to drink and how to do it at low risk levels. So as all of us know, alcohol and substances can be a part of college life for many students, and it's definitely a part of every college campus around the world. So Red Cup serves as a universal prevention method in that it's not targeting any specific set of students or demographic of students, but rather the student population as a whole. And it's also kind of a harm reduction strategy in that we're not necessarily telling students they can't drink, but rather providing them important education about how to drink safely should they choose to drink, and to make educated decisions about whether they want to drink or not. So we have some communication goals in order to achieve our mission. And those include being educational, so students are making decisions based on facts, not on all of the misconceptions and myths that surround alcohol and other substances on a college campus. We always want to be relatable, so students connect to our messaging and the education we're providing them. And we also want to be non-judgmental, so students feel they can use our messaging to make decisions about alcohol for themselves. If a student submits a question and feels as though in our answer we've judged the question that they've asked or judged them based on the question that they've asked, we really inhibit the ability of the students to feel that they can get the information they need to make informed decisions. And so we really want to make sure our tone is always non-judgmental, answering the question with as much truth and transparency as possible, while still kind of promoting healthy decision making. So how do we achieve our communication goals and our mission? We use a communicative and relatable yet educational tone. I kind of talked about this on the last slide, but that helps students feel informed rather than lectured to. Students on a college campus spend most of their days in classes, and we definitely don't want Red Cup to feel like another sort of class environment, but rather a resource that students feel connected to, that informs them, is kind of easy to read, and doesn't feel like a lecture or some sort of talking to about what you need to be doing as a student, right? College students are adults, and we want to treat them as such, with the ability to make decisions for themselves. So we avoid the use of scare tactics. Kenya talked about that in her presentation. We know that scare tactics are not effective. A kind of cheesy example of a scare tactic would be something like, alcohol is deadly, if you use it, you may die. Kind of this approach of trying to scare someone into not doing something, which we know doesn't work. So we avoid using those kind of tactics and instead use data, statistics, and other communication to create truthful and positive messaging about safe decisions around alcohol use. So what kind of content do we produce? There are several different types of content that we put out there for students on campus. We have a weekly article in the OU Daily. It's kind of like a column that you might see in a out of campus publication or newspaper. So if you haven't seen those, you might check them out. I think they're pretty fun. We also do special columns in all of the OU Daily publications, like the Living Guide, the special OU Texas publication, and the quarterly Crimson Quarterly magazines. And then we put synopsis of all of our articles that we publish on social media. So we have an Instagram and Twitter, and we want to make it easy for students to access, as I've kind of said. And so not all students are reading the OU Daily, but we want to make sure that all students have access to our to the answers to their questions, regardless as to whether they pick up the OU Daily or Crimson Quarterly or not. So we try to put the highlights of each article on our social media so students can easily access that information. So next, I'm just going to show you some examples of the kind of content we produce. These are some examples of the columns that we have. So these, as I said, are real world questions submitted by real students, which is why you might read them and think, oh my gosh, did they really answer that? And the answer is yes, we really did, because the student asked us. And we want to make sure that students feel, as I said, not judged for their questions, and also have a source to get reliable information for their questions about alcohol. So you can see some of these examples here. Does alcohol make you horny? Why do people drunk text? What are some tips for drinking in moderation? And then a special Halloween article about how you can kind of avoid a big fright. So in every article, we state the question, and then we state the answer with as much information as possible without, overwhelming the students. We also have a special Sooner stat on every publication that is just some sort of fun fact, or statistic that's relevant to the topic we're discussing in the article. And at the bottom of every article, you kind of see our disclaimer as well as our QR code, which links to our link tree. I think it might actually be our Instagram. I can't remember now that I'm saying it out loud. But either way, a place that students can go to get more information and find where they can submit a question anonymously if they don't feel comfortable emailing it in. So those are some examples of the normal publications that get submitted to the OU Daily every week. And then, as I said, a synopsis of each of these goes on our Instagram and Twitter accounts. So on the next slide, I'm giving you some examples of some of the special publications that we do with the OU Daily. So what are Oklahoma's laws on alcohol that I should know about? That one in the Crimson Quarterly, which goes out to all staff and students. So it's a relevant topic that all people on campus, regardless as to whether they're a student or a staff member or faculty member, would be interested in knowing. Then we kind of have some fun kind of add visual things that we publish in different special publications as well, as you can see there with the OU Student Must Knows. Here's another example of something that went in the Living Guide, which is what happens if I'm having a party and my friends who aren't 21 are drinking. So we try to select topics and questions. If there aren't any that have been submitted for that week, we try to select questions and topics that are relevant to the population we're targeting, so students on campus, where we can provide really factual information for them to make informed decisions. So here are some important links that I talked about throughout this little synopsis of what the Red Cup is. And I think Jennifer has put all of these in the chat for us. So thank you, Jennifer. The link to our Instagram and Twitter, as well as our link tree. All of our past articles and special publications are linked on our link tree account. So if you're interested in checking those out, you can see the online version of our columns there on our link tree, as well as some local community resources if you're in need of resources for substance use, and some cool features like a BAC calculator and self-assessments about your alcohol use to see if your use falls within the safe drinking limits set by the National Institute of Health. So those are some important links that you might want to save and check out as you have time. I think that's all I had for my Red Cup portion. It's really fun at the Southwest Prevention Center to see all the ways prevention can be used, whether it's an educational campaign like the Red Cup, support groups or curriculum groups for younger children preventing use well before it happens, or even at a higher education level where we're focusing on mental health and tying in some of these preventative things that are shown in the evidence. So whatever your position is in the field of social work, there are ways that you can be a prevention partner and definitely be supporting your clients in preventing future mental health crises and future substance use issues. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and Jennifer, I'll hand it back to you if you have anything else.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maddie and Jack and Madison and Kenya. This was great information about all the different ways that prevention can really intersect with our lives. And hopefully you'll use the links if you haven't already to follow some of that great Red Cup Q&A and submit a question that Mackie will get to work putting up on the different sites. So it's been really great to see those things unfold. Earlier on in the chat, I posted a link to the Southwest Prevention Center's site, as well as the PTTC Technology Centers. So if you have any interest in prevention, those are some additional resources that you can check out. And I would encourage you to get connected with the individuals at the Southwest Prevention Center. There's great coalitions that are happening in our communities. I know some of you are online students, and so there is also opportunities across the nation to get linked in to prevention in your own community. So we know prevention works, and I hope that this example of different ways that we can go upstream has been informative and helpful to those of you. So great job, you all. I guess we have about 5 minutes if anyone has questions, but otherwise that's our presentation. Right, lots of good feedback. So way to go. I think it's also fun. I know a lot of the people on this are peers of some of those that presented. So it's also fun to hear about what some of your fellow colleagues are doing in their practicum environments. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We'll take a short break, and our next presentation is going to start at 3 o'clock.